Hi. So today we're going to be continuing our previous lesson on reading text files, and we're going to go over reading .csv files. So comma-separated value files are similar. You can think about them almost as being like Excel spreadsheets. So basically, you can tabulate content and just separate values by commas, and you can think about them as being, like almost Excel spreadsheet kind of things. So when we read CSV files, we can do that by basically you can have to use a library called the CSV library. So you have to pip install it or conda install it or whatever, and then you have to import it into your file. And then when you import it, then you can use the functions that are unique and native to the CSV library. So here what we're going to do is, again, very similar to how we read the text files. We use this with statement, right? It catches any errors like file not found errors. So you can say with open the file, and again, make sure that the file name, the path has to be specific to your directory that you're in, that your Python file is in. And then we're reading it, so we just put this, quote R thing as file, right? We're assigning a file to be the file variable to be our file. We then basically assign data to the csv.dict reader of file, right? Actually, why did I do that? I don't think I had to do that, but we'll use data later. But for now, we can just say print file.read, and then it'll just print the file, right? Very, very straightforward. I kind of had to break up because there's a lot of this CSV file has Pokemon and their associated types. So the headers are the Pokemon name and the type, and then all the names of the Pokemon are like underneath that. Then you can just print it, and then I had to abbreviate it, but it'll print everything in that file. So before we go on, I just want to briefly discuss what the pandas library is. So pandas is just another library that helps you store things in data frames. It's preferred for reading CSV files because a data frame is almost like a two-dimensional list or a two-dimensional array. So it's a way to group data by their column headers. So in this case, it would group the Pokemon data by the headers Pokemon and type. And we can easily import it by first pip installing it, depending on what version of Python you have. You may have to use a different version of pip. And then you have to import it. Google Colab if you click on the link to this lesson in the description below, you can go to the Google Colab file at the very bottom of the lesson. You can just click on this button over here, and it'll take you to the Google Colab framework that already has pandas pre-installed. But if you don't have it installed on whatever editor you're using or whatever environment you're using, then you have to pip install it first. When you do that, so as I said, pandas is a way to, it's a library that has functions unique to storing data and like manipulating data frames specifically. So instead, what we can do is we can just say we import pandas, right? And then PDs, again, we're just abbreviating it. So then we assign the variable data frame to pd.read, and then we get this, right? We input this, the name of the file, and then we just print dataframe.head. Head is just a way of printing like the first 4 or 5 entries in our data frame. And you see over here, it like cleanly and neatly tells us what our data is, and it prints it in a very nice and formatted way. How about if we want to write to CSV files, right? So this is about reading, right? How if we want to like manipulate an existing CSV file to write to it? What we can do is, again, we can use the append. I'm going to use append because I have a lot of data on Pokemon, right? I don't want to write to this file because if I write, then I'll just override whatever was in the file, and I'll just have new entries without existing entries. So what I want to do is I want to append, basically add to the file. So what you can do is you can say, this is one way of doing it, right? There's 2 ways of doing it. The first is just to use this writer function with the CSV library. So we can say this writer is equal to csv.writer, right, with the file name, the file, with the delimiter, and then here the quote card basically means that we're eliminating any quotes or taking in any quotes that are in our file, and then quoting. So this is just a way to specify that we're minimally quoting, and then we can write. We have to use the quote card because here we're using quotes in our entries. So we can write a row, and then we just write the row Pikachu electric, and then if we close the file, and then if we actually read it, you'll see that we added to the very end Pikachu electric. So this is one way of doing it. I don't really prefer this way, but this is one way of doing it. The second way I think is a lot better, and that's with the data frames from the Pandas library. So again, all you can see is like it's first off, it's like fewer lines of code, and second of all, it's just much cleaner. So you just again read the file. Actually, you don't even have to read the file. I'm just doing it to show you. So you can add, or actually no, you do have to read it because you have to manipulate data frame. We're assigning the file to the data frame variable, and so basically what this does is like iloc is a method or a function of the data frame of the Pandas library, and what it does, if I say my data frame dot iloc, it looks for the index location. So in this case, I'm specifying the index location to be 2, and I'm assigning this index location to this sailorman's flying. iloc will actually add a new entry into the index position 2, right? I think it's different than the loc function because I think that one will override what's already in that index, and we'll just change the value. But in this case, because we're using iloc, it will actually add a new entry to that index. So our index is 2. So looking at our file, when we first read it up here, right, we saw that at index 2 was Charmander and Fire. But then when we use this iloc, right, we can we've added here we add Salamence and Flying. So yeah, here at index 2, we've added Salamence and Flying, and we basically pushed everything else down to accommodate for our new entry at index 2. And if you want to add to the end of the file, all you can do is say, you could say like the length of the column, right, -1, right, and then that'll give you the location of the last index, and that's a way to add new things or new entries to our file. And again, the last step is if you actually want to save this back to the CSV or create a new CSV, depending on what, right? So we can either, if this file already exists, right, if Pokemon.csv already exists, it will basically add this I don't think an R should be there. It should just be Pokemon.csv. Yeah, it'll add or data, yeah, to CSV. Sorry, it'll add whatever it'll assign the data frame to this file, and then it'll save it. And if you want the index to be false, basically we don't want to save these indices. You can say that as false, but we want a header in our file, so that's true. And then it'll save it to this file, Pokemon.csv. Ignore the R because that's for reading files. I think we have to just say Pokemon.csv. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and again, if you go to the link in the description box below, you can click on this and it'll take you to an interactive lesson. So yeah, but yeah, thank you so much, and see you in the next video.